The air in our Palm Springs living room crackled as Mark, my husband of 25 years, sneered at the photo album I poured my heart into for weeks. "Quit the drama, Laura," he snapped, his voice slicing through the silence. "You knew this was coming." He stood there, smirking, flipping through the pages with zero care, creasing corners I'd spent hours perfecting. "Look at this, 25 years of marriage stuffed into some sad little scrapbook. Pathetic, really." I didn't flinch. Each photo he mocked was a piece of us, our wedding under a golden sunset. The keys to our first fixer-upper, beach trips with the kids, holiday dinners. But Mark didn't know the half of it. Tucked between those snapshots wasn't just nostalgia, it was my ticket out. My ace in the hole. He slammed the album shut with a smug flick of his wrist. "Since we're laying it all out there," he said, gesturing to the suitcase parked by the door. "I've been seeing Rachel from the office for 8 months. She's young, driven, everything you used to be." His grin widened as he dropped the bomb. "I'm leaving tonight. We're crashing at the Grand Vista Hotel until we snag our own place. Rachel is 28-year-old intern. I'd clocked their affair months ago, the late-night meetings. The whiff of unfamiliar perfume on his collars. I'd stayed quiet, biding my time, waiting for the perfect strike. "Big news, Mark," I replied, my voice cool as ice despite the tremor in my hands. "And on our anniversary, too. Classy." He barked a laugh that bounced off our vaulted ceilings. "Oh, come on, Laura. Don't tell me you thought I'd stick around to toast this? The album. That fancy dinner you booked at Lorenzo's, it's desperate." "You're desperate." I stood, smoothing the emerald green dress he'd always said aged me, and crossed to where he loomed. His eyebrows shot up as I snatched the album from his grip. "You're right about one thing," I said, a smirk tugging at my lips. "Tonight's not going how you planned." What Mark didn't see coming was this. Nestled between those memories was the end of his cushy little world, and the start of mine. I'd known about Rachel for ages, but that wasn't what kept me up at night. 1 week ago, everything changed. My hands shook slightly as I gripped the album, flashing back to 3 a.m. at the kitchen table. Triple-checking lottery numbers under a flickering bulb. 6 digits that turned me from a fading housewife into a multimillionaire. I didn't call Mark. I called Diane Carter, the sharpest financial mind in Palm Springs. We'd spent 3 days locking it all down, trusts, accounts, lawyers who eat lottery cases for breakfast. My future was bulletproof in my name only. I'd even started eyeing Malibu beach houses, dreaming of waves instead of desert dust. "You know what's funny, Mark?" I said, tracing the album's spine. "I thought finding out about you and Rachel would gut me. Watching you walk out. Crush me. But it doesn't." The signs had been there: late nights, hushed calls, conferences with no receipts. He froze, hand on his suitcase. "Don't tell me you're having some epiphany," he scoffed, but I caught the flicker of doubt in his eyes. For 25 years he'd had me figured out. Now, he was lost. "Oh, I've had plenty of breakthroughs lately," I shot back, sinking into our antique desk chair, the one he'd bullied us into buying, deepening our debt. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, smirking. "That's Rachel. She's downstairs." He straightened his tie, the blue silk one I'd gifted him last Christmas. "My lawyer will call about the house and assets. Let's keep this clean, Laura. Be an adult." I nodded, watching him fidget with his watch, probably tallying what he could squeeze out of me in a divorce. He had no clue his whole game was about to implode. "Before you go," I said, flipping open the album, "take a look at this." I slid a crisp document from between our old Hawaii vacation pics, Mark texting Rachel the whole trip, naturally. His eyes narrowed as I unfolded it, the California State Lottery Commission letterhead glinting in the light. "What's this? Another therapy pamphlet?" He snorted. "We're way past that." "Nope," I said, standing tall, adrenaline pumping. 7 days ago, I won the lottery, Mark. 98 million bucks. After taxes, it's a cool 60 mil. His suitcase thudded to the floor. "You're bluffing," he rasped. But his gaze locked on the seal, the numbers in bold black ink. "I'm not. It's all processed, advisors, lawyers, the works. And here's the kicker. California law says lotto winnings before a divorce are mine alone." His face went ghost white. "Laura, honey, let's talk," he stammered, stepping closer. "I still care about you. Maybe I rushed this." "Rushed it?" I cut in. "Like that Santa Barbara getaway with Rachel?" Or the diamond bracelet you charged to our joint account. His phone buzzed again. Rachel. Impatient downstairs. She was in for a rude awakening. You can't do this, he croaked. We're married. I've got rights. I smiled, lighter than I've felt in decades. Actually, I can. Rachel's waiting. Don't keep her. For the next hour, Mark flailed to save his sinking ship. The smugness melted into oily charm, his smirk morphing into a pleading grin I'd seen 100 times. We can fix this, he paced, waving at our home, the one he'd secretly remortgaged to fund his gambling. 25 years, Laura. That's worth something. Rachel was a mistake. You're my wife. My wife, I echoed, deadpan. Funny you weren't singing that tune an hour ago when you called me pathetic. His phone kept buzzing. Rachel, still clueless below. I'll end it now, he blurted, fumbling for his cell. I'll call her up here, dump her in front of you. That prove I'm serious. I shook my head. This isn't about Rachel. It's about 25 years of your lies and control. The lottery just opened my eyes. His charm evaporated, replaced by venom. You think you can ditch me after all I've done? I made you, Laura. You were nothing. A small-town dreamer with no spine. And now I'm a small-town dreamer with 60 million and a killer lawyer? I fired back, unflinching. Want his card? You'll meet him tomorrow anyway. I'll fight you tooth and nail, he growled. Years in court. You'll never enjoy that money. I pulled another paper from the album. My lawyers have it all, your affair, your gambling, the cash you siphon from our accounts. Receipts for Rachel's gifts, too. How's that gonna play in court? His phone buzzed again. The screen flashed. What's taking so long? Dad's with the investor at the restaurant. We're screwed if we don't show. I grinned. Oh, right. Rachel's dad was bankrolling your new venture, the one you've been cooking with embezzled funds. Mark crumpled onto our overpriced leather sofa, another of his reckless buys. How did you? He choked. People talk to a harmless housewife, I said, smoothing a third document. Like Sarah from accounting. She's been flagging your shady transfers for months. She was thrilled to hand over proof. You've been digging into me? He roared. You had no right. As your wife and a company shareholder, I had every right. The board agreed when my lawyers showed them the dirt last week. They're voting on your job tomorrow. Spoiler, it's not looking good. His phone rang. He answered, trembling. Rachel, I can't make it, something's up. Her yells blasted through before he hung up, deflated. You've torched everything, he whispered. No, Mark. You did. I just stopped playing your game. A sharp knock rattled the door. Mark flinched, eyes darting like a caged animal. That's Detective Brooks, I said, strolling to answer. He's keen on those offshore accounts. Mark grabbed my arm, desperation clawing. We can deal. Divorce papers, a confession, anything. Don't do this. Hands off, Mark, I said, ice cold. He let go as the knocking grew louder. You don't get it, he hissed. There are big players involved. If this blows up. Oh, I know, I cut in. Like David Klein. Laundering your cash through shell companies. He flipped on you 3 days ago when the FBI showed him your texts, planning to frame him. Your password's 1234, by the way. Amateur hour. Police. Open up, Mr. Wilson. Mark lunged at me. You'll ruin your rep. Vindictive wife jails her husband. That your legacy? I'll take whistleblower who busted a fraud any day, I said, swinging the door wide. He's yours, detective. Check his phone, he was about to wipe it. Mark raged as they cuffed him. You set this up, the album, the dinner, all of it. The lotto was luck. I admitted, watching them haul him off. The rest? 25 years of planning paying off. He twisted back. What about Rachel? You ruining her too. She chose her path, I said. But she's got your texts calling her a useful idiot to take the fall. She's probably lawyering up as we speak. The door shut. The album sat on the table, a hollow shell of a life built on lies. I didn't need it anymore. I had something better, a future I'd forged myself. 1 year later, I lounged in my Malibu beach house, the Pacific glowing orange at dusk. Waves drowned out Palm Springs' dry whispers, salt air scrubbing away my past. The media frenzy after Mark's arrest flared and faded, corporate fraud's a fleeting headline. He copped a plea, testifying against his cronies for an 8-year stretch instead of 20. Rachel bolted to Arizona, her gold digger dreams in ashes. The morning paper hailed me and Sarah from accounting as heroes in the fraud takedown. But my eyes lingered on the business section. My new foundation, fueled by Lotto Cash, was thriving. We empowered women to break free from financial traps like mine. Every win felt personal. My phone pinged Diane Carter texting. Our latest investment popped, more funds to save more lives. I grinned, marveling at my journey from that photo album night. Revenge isn't just tearing someone down. It's building yourself up, unstoppable. Last week, a prison letter from Mark arrived. I let it sit, then tore it open. Pages of apologies, jailhouse Jesus, and a pitch to collaborate on my foundation post-release. Classic Mark, still scheming. I shredded it, no reply. At a foundation gala that night, I swapped stories with Chris, a widowed investor and big donor. He chuckled at Mark's gall, eyes warm. Some never change, he said, handing me champagne. But others. He nodded at the room, women we'd lifted now soaring. Speaking of change, I said, that album's in a museum now, part of a fraud and abuse exhibit. Hidden compartments and all. A plaque beneath it read, sometimes the toughest chains are the ones we don't see. Chris raised his glass. To breaking chains. And building bridges, I added, clinking mine. The past was gone. The future? Mine to shape.